So we are getting closer and closer to the January transfer window. A transfer window where United will be slightly restricted with funds due to all of the deals that we made last summer. However, with United in currently such a strong position in the league and finally finding some form, I think it might be worth dipping into the market again to try and make a push for Champions League football. Now, before we can start dreaming about the different players that we want to bring into the club this January or trying to figure out how much money we have, we need to actually figure out what type of footballer we need. What could United do with being added to the squad to give ourselves a little bit of a boost, particularly with the African Cup of Nations coming up as well? So the first thing that I think we need is another central midfielder. Currently we've got Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro as the starters. Two very good players that don't always necessarily complement each other because they are both quite rash at times, they can both lose the ball quite a lot, and neither of them are great at covering large spaces. We also have the slight problem of the fact that we almost have no one else. Semenyo is incredibly out of favour right now. I'm still not entirely sure why, and Ugarte is also massively out of favour. So right now it feels as though Amorim has two central midfielders that he really trusts, so we need to go and find another one. This midfielder needs to be someone that can cover a lot of ground, both vertically and also laterally across the pitch. They have to be able to put that hard work in, but on the ball we are looking for quality. We want a player that can look after the ball under pressure, help us play out in the first phase, but also potentially be someone that can be progressive, someone that can carry the ball and also has an expansive passing range. Then the other thing that we need is probably another winger. Currently at the club we only have Mbeumo and Ahmad, who I would class as proper wingers. Some would say Cunha, but for me he's more of an inside forward player. What we need is another player who is like a traditional winger, someone who excels in 1 versus 1 situations, someone who is quick, someone who wants to attack the box and score lots of goals. That's what United need, and Fabrizio Romano has alluded to the fact that yeah, that is exactly what the club is currently looking for. So those are the two positions that we are going to try and address in this video, with some familiar names but also a different name as well. Now, the first name that I want to put forward is João Gomes of Wolves. Of course, we discussed him very recently, but I think it's worth talking about him again because of the sort of attributes that he would bring to Manchester United if he was to sign in January, which I genuinely think is possible with Wolves really staring relegation in the face right now. They look set to go down. Maybe you can offer them some money right now for a player to get out. In terms of João Gomes, what you're getting is a 6 and an 8 sort of hybrid, which is exactly what this system requires, right? We know that United are one of the few teams in England that actually still play with a midfield 2, which does require a slightly different job and slightly different skill set to what other clubs might perhaps look for. So therefore, someone who can play both as a 6 and an 8 is perfect. We know that United are often quite rotational with the shape in the middle. So for example, if we bring Casemiro in, sometimes we will see him sitting deeper as Bruno goes further forward, and then sometimes they will swap, and then sometimes they will play alongside each other. Therefore, someone like João Gomes is perfect. He can do all of those things. He's a very complete player in the middle of the park. In terms of defensively, I think his ground coverage is excellent. I think his defensive output is very, very strong, and that's what United need. Someone who, as we said, can apply pressure vertically, you know, can jump forward and apply pressure over here, or can track back and put a tackle in, or can shift laterally across the pitch, particularly into this wider zone where sometimes our wing-backs can be caught either too deep or actually sometimes too high as well. And I think Gomes is the perfect sort of player to bring that to United. Now, I think the other weapon that Gomes possesses is the ability to play through the opposition's block, which is something that we currently lack. Casemiro and Bruno are both very good at passing the ball round the opposition or through the opposition or even over the opposition. But sometimes we struggle to actually just pick the ball up and drive and take people on and commit players. A lot of our forwards can do it, but our midfielders not so much. Gomes is someone that would potentially change that. He is a player who has a sort of tactical gravity because of the way that he plays. He will often draw a couple of players towards him because he is willing to take the ball on in quite dangerous situations. He is willing to put that ball at risk, kind of hoping that he can make something happen. And when a player does that, when a player shows that sort of character, responsibility and confidence on the ball, it does attract opposition players towards him, right? Because the second this player gets beat in the duel here, Gomes goes past him, the next midfielder sort of starts to think, do I need to go and deal with that, or do I need to cover the player behind me? And we say this all the time. If you can get defenders trying to make split-second decisions, then you're going to get some success. And I think Gomes would be excellent for that, really, for United. The good thing, though, is that he could also do the other role as well. So he could do that job where he's sort of bounding forward and trying to support the attack, but also sometimes he could go and drop and play as a solo 6 allowing Bruno Fernandes to play a little bit higher. And I think from here, what you get from Gomes is sharp passing that we mentioned the other day, but also that ability to sort of dictate the play and ping passes from the left to the right, just over and over again. He does possess pretty good long passing, which is something that we know we need with the wing-backs. United often get these players sort of arriving into space up here. You need someone from deep, almost like a deep-lying playmaker, who can play that ball, and I think Gomes could be that guy. So I know we've discussed him recently, but there's a reason. He's good. Now, the next player that I want to talk about may be one that you guys are not quite as familiar with, and that is Smit. Now, this is a player that United have actually been mentioned with and sort of linked with over the past couple of weeks. He is, I would say, the powerhouse of young Dutch football at the moment. He is the engine of young Dutch football. Physically, he's a beast. I think normally when we think of Dutch midfielders, we are thinking of evasive, extremely technical players, and we'll come back to that shortly. But first of all, he looks like a player who physically could make the adaptation to the Premier League. Now, you would assume it would take a little bit of time, but I think once given that time, he ticks a lot of the boxes of what Ruben Amorim and also the Premier League demands, and that is intensity, that is work rate, that is physicality, the ability to go shoulder to shoulder, the ability to tackle, and the ability to sort of shrug people off when you're playing on the ball. He is brilliant at driving forward in possession, sort of carrying the ball through the pitch. But then when he doesn't have the ball, he's got the ability, the mobility, but also the desire to work back and try and put these tackles in. When he gets on the ball, we sort of lose that powerhouse vibes and we sort of look at a more technical, a more silky player. A lot of body swerves. A player who likes to play with a lot of disguise, kind of throwing the shoulders, throwing the hips about to try and throw off the balance of the opposition. He's very good taking the ball under pressure, whether that be pressure from behind or pressure in front, and evading the challenge. He's actually very, very good in those situations. But I think what I've been more impressed by is his sort of short, sharp passing. Really nippy passing, which gives a sort of great speed and a great tempo to the way that he plays. I think he's someone who is capable of slowing down and sort of knocking it about. But when that ball comes towards him, he has his great ability to have this relaxed body language to draw opposition players in before quickly sort of firing through the lines. And I think what's incredibly important is that he can do it off both feet. And I think when we find these players who are mobile, who are quite elegant in possession, but also able to play two-footed passing game over 6 or 7 yards repeatedly over 90 minutes, I just think they're a great type of footballer to watch, and probably the sort that United have sort of been missing. We're talking about someone who can carry here, someone who can potentially be press resistant, someone with excellent passing range, and also can do a lot of physical defensive work, covering a lot of ground. Smit, of course, is a bit of a gamble because of his age, and the fact that you would be hoping for a player to transfer well to the Premier League from the Eredivisie, which hasn't always happened. But Smit might just be worth a gamble because he's probably going to be one of the more affordable options in January. And the skill set looks really nice. I highly recommend you go watch him because there's a serious player there. Now, for the last player on the list, we just have to go back to Semenyo. I know we've spoken about him recently, but we now know that United want a winger at some point. We are talking about one of the best wingers in the world, potentially at a slightly better price than normal in January. United have to be tempted. I think it's a little bit unrealistic. I think it would be difficult for us to do, but you have to be tempted. The news has to have caught our eye because he's a phenomenal player. The other day we spoke a lot about what he could bring at wing-back for United, but I also think there's the option to play him as a sort of left-sided 10. Could Sesko and Cunha, for example, compete for the striker spot, and Mbeumo plays on the right-hand side, and then you got Semenyo on the left. Cunha in all three positions would be ridiculous depth, and of course we can always rotate. I think Semenyo from this more advanced position is the excitement that United want and the directness that United want. Semenyo isn't a player too fussed about the aesthetics, touches for the sake of it, and doing unnecessary things. He wants to get the ball, he wants to be direct, he wants to find the quickest route to the opposition's goal. And what I love so much, again, about Semenyo is how bold he is with his play. Every time he gets the ball, he just finds the nearest defender and is like, all right, can I take you on? And a lot of the time the answer is yes. We know that he's a great explosive player, someone who has phenomenal acceleration over the first few yards, uses his upper body very well, that's his shoulders and his arms, to sort of manage where the opposition defenders are approaching him from. He does that very well. But again, we're talking about the fact that he's so two-footed that he can always go both ways. And I think that's phenomenal in dribbling situations. Because normally, as a fullback, you have an idea in your mind of where you want to send the opposition. Like, you might be thinking, okay, this guy loves cutting in, so I'm going to send him out wide, or vice versa. With Semenyo, you can't really do that because he can dribble both ways, he can pass both ways, he can cross both ways, and he can shoot both ways as well. So where do you send him? It's like no matter where you try and push him, he's going to hurt you anyway. And for defenders, that has to be incredibly frustrating. For a team signing Semenyo, it makes him a fantastic asset. I think my only concern with this signing would be, is that another one of those players who is a little bit too direct? You know, we have quite a lot of footballers who like to get the ball forward quickly and shoot as soon as possible. That would maybe be a little bit of a concern in my opinion. But if you are looking for a winger who is almost going to be a guaranteed hit and is going to score goals, it's difficult to look much further than this fella. The other day we broke down why. He's just great, really. He's class. So yes, those are the 3 players that Manchester United could potentially sign this January. And I genuinely think all of them drastically increase United's chances of getting a Champions League football spot. Now, right now, we don't know whether that last spot is going to be 4th or 5th in the Premier League. We're going to have to wait and see how things play out. But if United can do that, United can push into the top 5 or 4 and secure Champions League football for next season. You've got to think that would be great for the whole club. First of all, the confidence, the boost of knowing that you are a side that deserves to be in the Champions League. Considering we finished 15th last season, that would be a massive lift for all of the players and all of the staff. Then there's the financial side of things, the fact that we would have more money, the fact that you can probably attract more players because you've got Champions League football to offer them. I think these things would make a great difference. We'd have more games next season, which makes it a little bit easier to keep more players happy. Being in the elite competition is, it's what United should do. United should be in these competitions. We should be in those big nights on a Wednesday night, a big Champions League game at Old Trafford or at the Nou Camp. Manchester United should be involved in those games. And these sorts of signings halfway through a season can do a great job of sort of injecting the squad with some fresh energy, some fresh ideas to give the team that push. And also, it means that come next season, the player has already sort of fully adapted, fully settled to the league, and then next year is just ready to kick on and really fly at the club, which is something that would be amazing for us, right? That's what we want to see at United. Players settling fast, kicking on, and then next season we can start to dream about what we might be. So I think all 3 of these are great options. I would like to hear from you though in the comments who you would like the most. Order them 1, 2 and 3, and then also give me a bit of an outside shout of someone else that you would like United to approach or certainly take a look at this January. But apart from that, we're finished for today. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like, subscribe, and get your notifications on. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.